Alright everybody, welcome to another episode of The Urban Gardener. I want to thank you all so much for joining with me here today on this episode. If you haven't already, please get down below there, hit that subscribe button, follow along for more garden adventures as we continue growing here on The Urban Gardener. In fact, hit that bell notification to be notified of upcoming episodes. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on container fruit trees. We've got a few different container fruit trees that we've got growing on here in our urban gardens. We'll go around and check out those different varieties. And then I also purchased a bareroot pear tree just recently that I'll pot up with all of you there so that we can go through that process together. I also purchased a bareroot grapevine that I just planted right back here. So we got this Suffolk Red seedless grape variety here. I actually just planted this out and shot video of it that I wanted to show all of you, but after shooting all the video along with the first introduction, that was my second shot at the introduction there, footage just wasn't usable, so I didn't want to have to dig this up and try to make another video at all or anything like that. That wouldn't be good for our bareroot. In fact, I bought this just a couple of weeks ago at a local garden center nursery here in my area, and I planted it out until I could get it into the ground in a bucket along with some good soil, but I just haven't seen any growth on this rootstock, so I don't know if I've got any viable rootstock. We'll have to wait and see if there's any budding here coming up real soon. So hopefully that grapevine does really well in the spot that we picked out for it back here, and that we're able to train it along that fence line to grow along with all the different varieties of things like tomatoes and melons and things that we grow along back here, as well as our pepper garden that we'll have planted out here in the next coming weeks. But today we're talking about container fruit trees. There are lots of different types of fruit trees out there that you can grow in containers now. They have a lot of different dwarf and semi-dwarf varieties available. You've got apricots, pears, peaches, apples. You can also grow a lot of different citrus varieties like oranges, limes, lemons, mandarins, all sorts of things that you can grow in containers, which works out really well for those of us who have small space urban environments that we're growing in. We don't have that in-ground space to be able to plant out a big full-size fruit tree. But we can get really good varieties of fruit trees that can grow in containers and get really good crops for ourselves, even in small space environments. Just like this peach tree right here. So a few seasons ago, I thought I would try growing container fruit trees, but my first mistake was picking a tree that was not appropriate for my climate. I went to Sacramento to meet up with Martine Berchot to talk about growing citrus in containers. I really wanted to try citrus, and a blood orange is what we got down there. It didn't do too well in the climate here in Oregon. So a couple seasons ago I went and found this tree here. I'll put an iCard above to the video where we potted up this frost peach. It's a semi-dwarf, which, like I said, those dwarf and semi-dwarf varieties of fruit trees will work really well in these containers. First season I didn't get any fruit off of this. Last season there were a few blossoms, but I only got one peach. Just one peach. this year, as you can see, it's full of blossoms. It's really looking nice. So I'm really hopeful that we're going to get a lot of really good fruit off of this year. So the season after I got the peach tree, I was at my local garden center and they had a few dwarf varieties of apple trees, perfect for containers. This one here is a pink lady that we chose for our alleyway here. Got a really nice spot, getting lots of really good sun. It's putting out a lot of blossoms. Really wish you could smell those. They're just one of the best smelling flowers that we've got in the garden right now. But hopefully we're going to get some good apples off of this. Last year when I bought the tree, actually, it already had apples on it. So I'm really hopeful that we'll get some off of this pink lady variety. Now let's go take a look at the other apple trees that we got from that garden center on our back patio. So I'm not sure exactly what this tree is. Not necessarily a fruit tree, but possibly a nut tree or some other variety of something. Just started growing in that container there, and I've let it just grow and grow each year. We've had it about 5 or 6 years. It dies off in the wintertime, comes back in the springtime. It'll really bush out a lot more. It's got this interesting peanut butter smell to it. One thing I've ever really smelt that on was kind of like a walnut tree. So I don't know if we've got a walnut tree or not, but if you have any idea, let me know down in the comments section below. On our back patio area here, we've got a variety that's called the Tasty Red. I do have it up on this shelf here, this metal shelf, so that the top of it can get up past this fence line here and get all of this good sun on our back patio area. And it is really reaching up there for it too. In fact, I'll probably prune that back here this next season in order to get it to bush out just a little bit more. But I haven't seen too many blossoms on this one, so I'm not too sure what we're going to get. Just have to keep an eye on that there. And our third variety of apple growing in our carport area, the back patio, is this variety called Golden Treat. This tree's got some really amazing looking blossoms, all pink and white. And like the tree in the alleyway, it's got lots of them. And last season, this tree had apples already on it. So again, I'm looking forward to possibly having some nice fruits on this tree again this year. It's looking really nice. It's got a great spot here, back of the carport. In fact, this is where we kept our peach tree for the last couple of seasons, so it should do really, really well here. Look at you. Rolling around in the dirt. So all right, now that we've looked around at all of our different apple varieties and our peach that we've got growing back there, let's plant out a pear tree that I just purchased recently. This is a red D'Anjou pear, so the red variety of the D'Anjou. It is a dwarf variety. So you want to remember, if you're picking out a tree, no matter what kind it is, you know, like I said, we can get apricots, cherries, you can get all sorts of different dwarf varieties of these trees. You can get citrus trees as well. I did pick out this pear tree, and as you can see, it's already got blooms growing on it and everything. So I'm going to get it potted up into our container that we have here. I've got I think this is about a 7-gallon container that we're going to plant out this pear tree into. You could probably go down to a 5-gallon if you would like. You just want to make sure that your container has some proper holes on the bottom to make sure that you've got really good drainage. We're going to start off with this size of container too, and it'll take a few seasons for that root to grow into that container. But I'll keep an eye on it over the next couple of seasons on the root ball and make sure that when it starts to kind of ball up around all the edges, that will move up into another container. Now you can move up into larger and larger and larger containers if you want to, but about the time you get to the biggest container you can handle, that's when we'll do after the seasons that it starts filling in, is then cutting the root ball back every season or two in order to make sure that it's only staying a certain size and staying within the space that the container has. And these trees will get a pretty decent size. Just again, not those big trees like you're going to get if you're planting into the ground. So we're going to get down in here and we're going to plant that out, and then when we're finished planting it in, what we're going to do is we're going to fertilize with this, it's a citrus and fruit tree fertilizer that I've got from G&B Organics, but you can look for any other varieties of fruit tree fertilizers if you'd like to fertilize your tree. So let's get down in here and plant out this pear tree. So when you're potting up your fruit tree, you don't need really any special soil unless of course you're potting up a variety that needs a more acidic variety of soil. Then you can purchase that. I'm just using basic garden soil that I have here that we mix ourselves and use around our gardens. It's just you know, a mix of things that I find at the garden center, and you know, probably some peat moss or some cocoa coir mixed in, and then some different types of amendments and composts and things like that as well as our organic fertilizer that we'll be using too. So we're going to add in and kind of fill this up about, let's say about halfway there. Should be as good for right now. Your tree's probably going to come in this wood sawdust here, so I'll put that up here. I'm going to kind of loosen it up too, so I'm not just trying to really pull this out of here. There we go. And it's starting to come out really nicely. And look at that. You can see that's got some really nice roots on it already, growing really well. So you want to make sure that your tree is right there, right at the top, at about the top of your container. And I've got these longer roots, so I'll kind of dig down and kind of get them into the soil there. Then I'm just going to kind of lay that to the side there. Okay. also want to make sure that my tree is going to be straight too, and in the center. I think that should do it good. Okay. So now that we've got our tree all planted in, again, we've got it in so it's nice and straight up, and it's right at the level there of the roots and basically the base of the tree there, not buried much deeper. What we're going to do now is we're going to take some of that, it's an organic citrus and fruit tree fertilizer, just about a handful or so. We're just going to kind of work that into the first couple of inches of soil there, and that'll be a good feeding for that right off the bat. And then we've got those wood chips that this bare root came in. So what we could do, take some of that, spread it around the top and a nice layer there, and make a nice mulch on the top of the container. So there we go, simple enough. We've got this pear tree all potted up. Remember, when you're out looking at your nurseries and garden centers, you want to be looking for dwarf, semi-dwarf varieties in order to plant in containers. Those will do well. You could also find varieties of, like this is a pear tree, that have different varieties of pears that are grafted on to the tree. And so you could also look for some of those and have a variety of pears growing on just one tree. I think they do that with a lot of different varieties, like peaches and apples and all of them as well too. So that's something to look for. And remember, you want to find yourself a decent sized container with really good holes on the bottom for drainage. And you can use just regular garden soil or whatever soil that you like there that you use in your gardens. And you can scratch in again some organic fruit tree fertilizer in the first couple of inches there. And as you see, we did use those wood chips to mulch the container out. And if this was a smaller fruit tree and you got a windy area or a windy part of the gardens that you're putting your container, you could put a stake in there to kind of hold up that tree, just like what we've done here with the apple tree. If you do have smaller root trees, bare root trees that you've gotten, you could do that. And if the container is a little big for you to get around, you could also put rollers underneath of the container so that you could roll it around and get it to different places, or even be able to roll it around to kind of turn it so it gets sun all around the tree. There we go. We've got a pear tree added to our urban orchard. Alright, there we are. We've got ourselves a really cool pear tree to add to our urban orchard, right along with our peaches and all the different varieties of apples that we've got growing on around our gardens. This pear tree ought to be doing really well in the coming seasons. Now again, it's got blossoms on it already for this season. I'm sure though, because of the stress of being transported and packaged and now being put into its final home, its container, it's probably had a bit of stress, and it'll probably just drop most of those blossoms, and I probably won't get any fruit this year. We'll just have to wait and see though, and see how it turns out. But we ought to be getting some really great pears in the coming seasons. So be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you can follow along and see how well our container fruit trees are doing and all the other things that we've got growing on in our gardens. Now, if you've liked this video, please hit that thumbs up button and get down in the comment section below if you've got any questions or concerns about our container fruit trees or anything else that we've got going on here on the Urban Gardener. And I'll see you all on our very next episode. Decent fruit trees with the dwarf varieties that they have available nowadays. Whoa. I totally slipped. Back here this season. We've got tomatoes, peppers. Oh, my buddy's here. Orchard. I'm not looking at the camera. Not too bad, not too bad. On our very next episode. That whole... We're gonna cut that.